Hey, welcome guys. One second while I get everything set up. Just making sure I'm logged in and everything. Alright, here we go. I'm just gonna pin something in the chat. If you guys have any questions, let me know. There we go. Now we're live. Alright, welcome everyone. So we've got a few people joining. Welcome. This is our normal live Q&A for that we do usually every week. Hey there. Oh, we got an active Tuesday. Welcome everyone. Hair by Alisad, Alec Barbero, welcome. Michael Hoboken Cuts, welcome. Sickest Cuts, welcome. You guys got any questions? I can only see who's joining on Instagram, by the way. So if there's other people watching on YouTube or Facebook, I can't actually see your name, but I can see Instagram. Yeah, good morning, guys. It's morning still where I'm at. I'm in Florida, so it's 11:01 a.m. That's typically when we do these calls, by the way. It's just that's just because it's convenient for me. But if there's a time that works for you guys, let me know, and I'll test different times. Every now and then, I randomly go live at a random time to test to see like is it better going live at this time versus this time. But I don't know. It just depends on how many people join. So Michael wants to know, how many years do you need to not be a new barber? That's a great question, Michael. So there's this book written by, I don't think I bought it. Who the fuck wrote a book? I think it was called Mastery. No, it wasn't Mastery, but maybe it was Mastery by Robert Greene. There's a different guy who wrote a book. Basically, have you ever heard the saying, like, it takes 10,000 hours to master a skill? Have you ever heard that? Have you guys ever heard that before? And in the book, basically it broke down, like, if you're working 40 hours a week, it works out to be like somewhere between 5 to 7 years to be considered a master. Now, I actually don't think that that's 100% true anymore, because I think that it's more like a matter of reps, and it depends on where you're learning from. So, for example, if you're working 60 hours a week or more, then you're going to learn a lot faster than the 10,000 hours, right? Or in the 5 to 7 years, right? You're going to cut your learning curve. Also, if you have mentors, and this is why I'm such a big advocate for paying for education courses, mentorships, because that cuts your learning curve down, right? And this is what I did in the beginning too. When I started cutting hair, because I'm a barber, I went to every hair show that I could. I watched every YouTube video that I could find. Whenever I wasn't cutting hair, I was watching YouTube about somebody cutting hair, right? So I think that really cut my learning curve down, right? Because I went from not knowing how to cut hair to opening a barbershop in 13 months. Some people might think that that's fast, but if you would have seen the work I was putting in, then you would understand. Like, yeah, that makes sense. I was reading books, I was going to all these classes, I was watching shit tons of YouTube videos. So it really depends, Michael, on how much work you put in. But if you have your experience prior to going to the barbershop, that helps, because that just adds on. I was actually just listening to a podcast this morning where this guy he opened a barbershop in 2018, and he has 20 locations now, right? So because I know now that it's not luck, right? I mean, some of it is luck, right? But I know from hearing that he either has partners or he had some experience to running businesses prior to doing that, because a lot of people would consider that really fast, right? And it is fast. And turns out, as he got later into the podcast, that both of those things were true, right? He already knew how to run a business prior to opening that barbershop. It's called Goat Haircuts, by the way. They're like in Utah and Arizona. They got 20 locations, and I was really interested in it, of course, because they do a membership model, just like we do. And yeah, so you can either cut that time by learning from somebody else, who's done it before, or you just put in the work, right? You put in the 10,000 hours, but if you're just doing the 40-hour a week, then, it's going to probably take you somewhere between 5 to 7 years. And yeah, and it's also like the thing with what we do with barbers is like, when people are looking for a good barber, like, what does that mean? Like, good at what, Because there's different things that you can be good at. Very few people are good at everything. And, so it's like, are you going to be a generalist? Are you going to try to be good at everything? Or are you just going to specialize in like a few different things, So that's another thing that you got to consider, right? Because I'm not good at everything. I'm not super great at scissor cuts. I've never cared about doing designs, color. Like, I just wanted to be a barber. I just wanted to cut hair and learn how to shave, right? So I'm not good at everything, And so you also have to consider that. Like, if you just want to be good at this particular skill, then it'll probably take you a little bit less time just to be not considered a new barber. So hopefully that helps you. Who's my greatest mentor? I mean, that's kind of a hard question to answer, because I feel like, that saying, like, you're the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, or something like that. Have you guys heard that before? So I've read hundreds of books. The shelf behind me just kind of represents like some of my favorites, but I've read hundreds, and I've listened to probably thousands of podcasts, went to dozens of classes, shows. So now it's starting to get to the point where it's like, it's getting hard to find people that are, good at everything, right? So I have to go to like specialists now, like I'm trying to kind of redo my payroll my system, like as far as like how the barbers are compensated, I want to make that even better. So I'm going to people that just are really, really good at that, and yeah, because nobody's good at everything. So as you can also think about it like that, like, okay, what is, and that's how I think about like, what book am I going to read next? It's like, okay, well, what am I struggling with right now? What skill do I need to learn? And then, find a book on that, find a podcast on that, or find a mentor on that, somebody who's done it before. And then that's how you kind of skip over that heartache, right? Because you're going to learn either way. You can either pay with time or money, but what you're eventually going to learn, as long as if you don't quit, you're going to learn the thing that you are struggling with right now. Eventually you'll figure it out. And you just, how you want to get there is up to you, right? But there's people out there that can help you. And in some cases, it's not going to be for free. Or you can figure it out on your own, but it's going to take you longer, and you're probably going to make a lot of mistakes. Both work, right? So I don't really have like, I mean, there's a few that come to mind, like Alex Hormozy is a big one. The people that help me run my ads have kind of turned into my mentors now. Fill Your Books, Corey and Jenna. Fill Your Books, they help me run my ads for my barbershop. So they're amazing. There's a long list, man. But you just got to find the people. And here's the thing because there's so much information now on social media, that the hard part, I think, now is actually filtering the information. So, just because somebody is good at building a huge following on social media doesn't mean that you should be taking business advice from them. Because what they're good at is building a following, right? But what are they talking about? How can they prove that they've done what they're talking about, right? That's what you have to look into. My resume is pretty easy to find. You can look up my shop. You can see, that we have like the highest reviews in the entire city. We have multiple awards, right? We've done millions of dollars in revenue. That's all proven, right? I can show you the bank statements. So you got to filter the advice that you're going through on social media. If you want to build a following on social media, then go to the people that have a huge following. that makes perfect sense, right? But I wouldn't necessarily take business advice from the same people unless they've proven that they're good at that too, right? So I don't have a huge following, right? But I can prove everything that I say on this channel. So that's how I would go about looking for a mentor. It's like, have they done what I'm trying to do? So yeah, my business generates 19% net profit. Is that enough to scale to another location? Or should I work on restructuring that percentage? First of all, I think 19% is something you should be proud of. I don't know how you're calculating that, because some people calculate their profit like, I have a friend who's a barbershop owner, and he's like, we made, 20% profit last year. And I'm like, is that after or before you paid yourself? He's like, that's before. And I'm like, okay, well, the way most organized businesses kind of talk about these things is profit is what's left over after you pay yourself. So that would be the first question. Is it 19% before or after you pay yourself? If it's after, then that's great. You should be really proud of that. And just know that when you open another location, that profit is basically going to disappear, right? Or at least shrink, right? Because, for example, if I wanted to open another location right now, which I do, we're planning on it, but the first probably year is not going to be super profitable, right? Because you got to take some barber from your existing locations, at least that's what I'm planning on doing, and then move them to the new one. So you're not really like increasing revenue, right? You're just moving it, to start. And then eventually, as that shop starts to get busier, then you start to actually see the benefits of, having the increased capacity, right? But usually the first, and I actually just re-listened to this podcast this morning. But every now and then, there's this podcast that I listen to from Alex Hormozi. It's actually a new one. It was an old one, rather. It was before he blew up, like 5 years ago or something, where he talked about like how to think about scaling, right? And then most people are me included. I'm not, special, but most people want to open more locations to build their status, right? To say that you have multiple locations and look at me, I have such a big operation. And now that I've done it and I know how hard it is and how dangerous it is, I would say that there's probably, room to work in terms of getting that net profit percentage up, right? Get it as high as possible, and it's because it's basically going to disappear or be severely reduced when you open a new one. But your problems will be for sure multiplied, and your expenses will definitely go up. The only thing that's for sure guaranteed when you open a new location is that your expenses are going to go up. Revenue may go up, but you're going to have to wait to see that later. So definitely, make sure that you're 100% confident that your net profit is what you say it is, and then have some money in the bank, because, hopefully it's profitable day one, but you want to plan on what if it's not, And then because that first barbershop is basically going to be paying to keep the other one alive until it can get to the point where it's self-sustaining, right? How do you feel like you're not doing? How do you feel like not doing all the extra to make your shop stay basic? I'm not sure that I understand that question. Do you feel like not doing all the extra make your shop stay basic? I don't really understand the question, Sickest Cuts. Can you rephrase that? But I will say that if I don't know, I had this thought the other day, but so we had this guy come out, Patrick Loyal, to our shop to do a class for our barbers. He's an amazing educator, and this guy, man, every time I meet somebody who is ahead of me, and I hear their work ethic, it's like, well, it's no fucking surprise that they're ahead. Right, the dude has 5 shops, 5 salons, 2 barber schools, and he still travels the country and does these classes, and then cuts hair 3 days a week. So I'm like, that makes sense. Of course you're as successful as you are, because most people are looking for a shortcut. Most people are avoiding the hard work, right? But the reality is there is no shortcut. The only shortcut that I know of is to pay somebody or to get a course or something that is going to skip over having to figure it out yourself. Read a book, listen to a podcast, watch a YouTube video. But that is the only shortcut. But you still, even then, you have to do the work, right? Because knowledge is one thing. Knowledge is nothing by itself. It's applied knowledge is what makes the difference. Okay. So that definitely didn't answer your question. But how do you book a one-on-one call with me? I don't do one-on-one calls anymore unless for the people that are inside of my barbershop owner mastermind. Just because most people are not serious, and I'm happy to help you guys on these calls. That's why I do these calls, right? And I have the free community. We can interact in there as well. Sometimes people DM me with questions. I'm like, and if I have time, I respond. But I don't do the one-on-one calls anymore, at least not for free, just because I want the people that show up to be serious. And people book these calls with me and then don't even show up half the time. So I'm like, got it. I'm not gonna do these anymore. So that's how to book a call with me. You said to keep to one skill rather than die in design. Yeah, I mean that's just what I chose to do. That's not necessarily what I recommend for everybody, but I don't personally, and this is the way I run the shop too. We don't try to appeal to everybody, right? So, I like to do basic shit, like because I never intended to actually be a barber. Like I became a barber because I wanted to own a barbershop, and I figured that was a good idea to become a barber if I was going to own a barbershop. And I was just never really interested in the color and the designs and being a celebrity barber. Like it was always about the business for me. Right. So I like to actually focus on the relationship with the client. And so that means I prefer just cuts that are more simple, right? Because if you guys notice, I'm sure this happens to you too, but if you're ever doing a really hard haircut, whether you're fighting with this fucking line and this skin fade for, 10 minutes, it's like, it's hard to have a conversation with your client, And, I have one of the highest retentions now in my shop at the moment. But I'm not the best barber. And I think it's just part of that is just because I really just try to focus on the relationship with the client. And there's some haircuts every now and then that are fun just because they're challenging. But that's just me. If you guys want to be good at everything, then go for it. But I decided, I'm just going to try to focus on just doing haircuts and beard trims, and shaves. I don't really care about all the other stuff. There's other barbers in my shop too that know how to do that. But when it comes to me, like when I think about skills for me, I'm thinking about skills that'll help me grow the barbershop. Because me knowing how to do color and designs is not going to really help me at this point in my career, right? My barber's learning that might, but it's not going to help me, right? It's not going to help my barbers if I learn how to do color and designs. So that's how I think about it. So that's why some of the advice that I give out maybe isn't relevant to everybody, because I have different goals, right? I have a barbershop, so I focus on what can I do to grow the barbershop first, So thoughts on barbers that want to negotiate their pay because they bring their own clients. I don't like hiring barbers that have clients personally. We don't really need you to bring your own clients. So the first step, I think, and this is really a hiring problem, right? Because if you have 10 people, if you got one spot available, right, Andrew, if you got one spot available in your shop and you got one person willing to take that spot, you're kind of at their mercy if you think about it, right? So the first step, I think, in trying and the long-term solution to solving this problem, you're not gonna like my answer, right? But long-term, the way to solve this problem is to have more barbers applying for you than you can possibly hire. Like, because then you can be like, oh, you want to negotiate your pay? Oh, sorry, we don't do that. We got 9 other people that I get to interview for this position, So that's really and this is why I have, the hiring course as well in my barbershop owner community. So it's the first, it was one of the biggest like unlocks for me. And it's just never stop hiring or never stop looking. Right? You don't have to hire everybody that applies, but never stop looking. And if somebody that applies, that's great, but you happen to not have a spot available, well, you still interview them in some cases, right? And then you let them know, like, hey, we just don't have a spot available for you right now, but if a spot opens up, then I'll hit you up, and I've done that several times. And it's somebody quits, right, or gets fired, like, you can fill the spot like that, you know? And I also try to balance that with, like, when we do find a good one, like, I want to keep them as long as possible. So you want to keep the good ones for forever. But the second they're not good for your business, then it's, give them a chance to improve. But if they're not willing to, or they want to negotiate with you, then it's like, sorry, we got other people. We got other people that want to take this spot. So, yeah, I mean, it just depends on the situation. And if you really need them, then maybe short term you can work something out. But most barbers are full of shit when it comes to how much clients they think they have, right? In my experience, no, they don't have nearly as much, because that's maybe where they're at right now. But every time I've seen a barber move shops, including if they leave mine, right, they lose at least 50% of their clients in the long term, right? Like just so you know, when you guys move shops, like that first month is going to be great, right? Like everybody's going to follow you. Everybody's going to be coming to check out the new spot, right? But then next month, it's not going to be as great. And then 6 months later, you're going to be like, where the fuck did everybody go? Because what a lot of barbers don't realize is that how they've probably found you to begin with is because you just happen to be close to where they live, or you happen to be close to where they work, or on their way home, on their way to work. But the second that you start to become a little bit inconvenient, you're starting to test the loyalty of those clients. And some people are not going to be willing to drive across town to come see you. Even if it's 5 minutes out of the way, they might not come see you, right? So that's another thing, like, why you don't necessarily, good morning, Tonsorial. This is another thing why you don't necessarily want to negotiate with barbers who aren't even working for you on their pay, because they're bringing all these clients, and they're probably full of shit, right? In my experience, like, most people don't have nearly the amount of clients, because why are they leaving? Right? Why do they need you if they have that many clients, right? Why can't they just go open their suite or whatever, right? It's a little suspicious. Let's say that. These are some fun questions, guys. Yeah, you got any more? I'm gonna be with you guys for another 20-ish minutes or so. Well, that's true. Sick as cuts. Yes, some people are just, they're not in a good situation. So yeah, thanks for bringing up that point. He said some people come for the vibe and professionalism of the barbershop too. Are you talking about clients or barbers? Because I think it applies for both though. Like some barbers are just, they're really good and they actually do have some clientele, but they're in a bad situation, right? So they're trying to get out of it, right? But clients absolutely can pick up on the vibe and the professional of the barbershop. It's one of the main things that people look for. I did a survey the other day, and people actually are looking for, what does the shop look like? How clean it is? What's the culture like? Surprisingly, people are really interested in how the shop looks, online, right? So if you guys don't have pictures of your barbershop, I mean, I would get on that, right? So don't just post haircuts on your social media. Post, like, pictures of your stations, pictures of you cleaning your tools, pictures of your shop, outside your shop, so they can find it easier. Like, these things are, clients really actually care about that stuff. I just added people who do research, man. I just added an our team page back to our website. And it's already like the number 2 or number 3 most visited page on our site since adding it like 2 weeks ago. So people really care, and they're trying to do research to see who they're going to choose when they go get their haircut. And you want to make it easy on them, basically, right? Yeah, he's a good one, but now wants to ask for less payout. He says payout too much. He's not used to it. Um, yeah, man. So the hard part about running a business is, at least for me, was realizing that you're not going to be able to keep everybody, you know? So some people are good for certain times of the business too. Like some people are good for the beginning when you're just getting started, but then later on they maybe they're not a good fit anymore. So you just have to think about, where this person is in that journey. If if he's helping to grow the shop, if he's, easy to work with, if he's, making your job less stressful, if he's a good team player. I mean, these are things that I would consider. It's not just necessarily like never negotiate ever. I probably put that a little harsher earlier than I intended, but ultimately they got to be growing your business. That's what it comes down to. Like, you can't pay your bills with good intentions, right? The bank doesn't accept that, right? You can't pay your bills with handshakes and promises. You pay your bills with money, right? So if somebody's on your team and they're not pulling their weight, you do what you can to get them in line, right? But ultimately, we got to have a standard, and there's only so much that you can pay out as a barbershop owner, right? Because you have to have money, profit, to keep running the business. So if he's not okay with that, then maybe that's a good sign, in the sense that, like, well, at least he told you that now, you know, because it's clear that he cares about himself more than the business, right? Because at least for my shop, it's the way my culture is, and I think, and just in general, the people that do the best understand that, like, the business needs to make money, right? And that they can't make more money unless they help the business make more money. And it's the same with me. It's kind of the owner mindset. Like, I can't pay myself more unless I grow the shop more, because that would just be irresponsible. I could pay myself as much as I want, but that would be basically sucking money out of the business, right? That's actually one of the hard parts, is when you become a business owner, is like deciding what to pay yourself. It's because you can just pay yourself whatever you want, but that's really depends on your goals there too. You can be a lifestyle type barbershop owner and just take all the profit out of the business and don't put anything back in, or you can pay yourself as little as possible and try to invest that in growth. So there's no right or wrong way. It just depends on what you want to do. So my owner's nephew isn't paying booth rent, and he is going up on our shop. Ugh. So he isn't paying booth rent at all, but he's raising all of your booth rent. Is that what you're saying? If that's the case, then that's annoying. I mean, maybe there's more to it than that. Like, did he start you like that? Does everybody get like a grace period when they start? Um, but that would bother me if I was a barber in that shop. I mean, it's not like you have any control over that anyways. So, and it's his business. It's not like illegal, you know. So the only thing you can really do is maybe have a conversation with him. But one thing I've learned, and this is a kind of a weakness of mine, is, but like, sometimes we try to avoid hard conversations, and a lot of times the things that you want, or the problems that you're having, can be solved by just having a hard conversation. And then you sleep better at night too, knowing, like, okay, well, I talked to him, he said, go screw yourself, and then I'm like, so you're not going to feel bad about leaving, right? If that's the case. So it sounds like the first step, have a conversation, like, hey, this isn't really okay, assuming that there's not more to this story here. And if he's like, whatever, it's my shop, it's my business, I'll do whatever I want. And if it bothers you that bad, then you know maybe think about going out on your own, or switching it up. you know I don't run booth brand though, so that's just kind of my perspective from the barber side. From the business owner side, maybe there's a reason why he's doing that, and so this is why the conversations are important, and why I try to communicate, some of the biggest decisions I make to my team is because from the surface it just seems like sometimes I'm probably like super greedy or all I care about is money, but if they understand the reason why behind some of the decisions I make and how most of these things are ultimately going to benefit them, then in a lot of cases they're accepting of it. You know, they don't have to like it, but they understand. They understand the reason why behind the changes. That's kind of like what I care about. As long as they understand and that my goal is this helps them, right, in a long term. It sounds like you just need to have a conversation with the person and see what comes from that, right? Sometimes you'd be amazed what a 10-minute conversation can do. It can cure problems in a lot of cases. And if not, then look at your options or just accept it that that's the way it is there. All right, guys. Good questions today. Thank you. Any more? If not, I can end this early. Some of the things that I was covering in the group are I get asked a lot about books. What books you recommend and all that. So I actually made a whole list. It's free. It's inside my Barbershop owner mastermind, my free one. If you go to the classroom and then you go down to where the best books for barbers. So I've actually read all these books and I categorize them for you. So if you guys are interested in reading any particular books, I actually put the links and the titles of everything inside this community. It's free, free to access. You might have to level up to get to that. Oh yeah, it's just level 3. I mean, the way you level up in this community is you join for free. You post some stuff in the community tab. Some people like it and comment, and then you earn points, and then and then you unlock stuff, right? And it's all free. But yeah, there's that. That's one thing I added to the community recently. When opening a new shop, how do you justify walk-in price? Well, I mean, all of our prices are the same, regardless of what type of haircut they get, what type of person they're going to, because the way and this is why, like in my paid community, the Barbershop owner mastermind, I'll show you guys. One of the first courses that I made was how to price your haircuts, which this one right here, right? So the how to cut hair faster, I think was actually no, the how to price your haircuts was the first course I made because it was like the thing that saved my business. To be honest, like it was like I was just underpricing, and then I also there's other tactics around pricing, like maybe your schedule's not optimized, so you're doing like 20 minutes and then 30-minute haircuts, 45-minute haircuts, or I've seen people do like 35-minute haircuts, and it just creates all these little gaps in your schedule. So it's a relatively short course, but it's this is how we came up with our pricing. So the only thing that we do different is we have a membership program, so that's priced differently, and then we do have but all of our services are based on time, right? So if it's 30 minutes of our time, it doesn't matter whether it's a haircut, a beard trim, a shave, because we price based off of how much time does that service take, and that's what we charge. Which our rate right now is $45 for every 30-minute chunk. So that breaks out to be, what is that, 45 divided by 30? So $1.50 a minute is our rate right now. So besides the memberships, the only other sort of discount we do is for first-time clients. We actually upgrade them to our premium haircut for the price of a classic. Right, and that's just because the barbers were basically complaining, and I get it, that like new clients take longer sometimes, and which is true. They don't know what they want. They show up late because they don't know where to park, whatever, you know. So we decided, all right, well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna give them the premium haircut, which basically adds time and adds a few other services for the price of a classic. And so the client feels like they're getting a deal, and the barbers have more time, and we still make 45 off of it. But it's just discounted from the normal price of 69. So I don't know that if that directly answers your question of when opening a new shop, how do you justify walk-in prices? But the best answer to like how to price your services is to just do the math, and you pencil out what it costs to run your shop, everything, include everything in there, the barber's pay, your pay, all the expenses of running the shop, and then you divide that by how many hours are available, and then that tells you this is my cost per hour for running the shop. Because barbers, I think, we're naturally pretty good at this with when it comes to products, pricing products, because you buy a product for 10, you sell it for 20. Your $20 isn't profit. That's just the $10. That $10 is the profit after the cost of buying the product. So it's actually the same thing with time, except with time it's a little bit more complicated. But how much did that time cost? Add a margin to it, and then that's what you sell it for. So that's how to figure out that answer of how much to charge, regardless of the scenario. Is you got to charge based on what your business needs. Anything else is just a guess, right? I could my rate is $1.50 a minute, but that's the reality of the way my current numbers look. But in the future, it might have to go up to $2 a minute. We used to shoot for $1 a minute, but costs go up over time. But you have to figure out, what does my business need, and then that's what you charge, right? There's some other advanced tactics that I get into with my community, like memberships and schedule optimization and things like that. But the basic step one, because a lot of people ask me about memberships, but I think most people aren't even ready to do memberships because they don't even have the basics right, which is well, what am I making money off my normal haircut price? Right? Because you're probably going to be discounting it when you create a membership. So first you got to get that down, and then you can discount it when you introduce your membership. So hopefully that makes sense, Andrew. The best answer to how to price anything is do the math. I get this question a lot when it comes to how to pay barbers too. Well, paying your barbers is basically like your barber's price. Well, how do the math and see what you can afford is the best answer to that. All right, guys. Well, good questions today. I think I'm going to end it now. If you guys want more help, just join my free community. If you want more specific help to run your barbershop better, I'll try to help you there. That's in my Barbershop Owner Mastermind, which the links to all that is in my bio wherever you're watching this. So I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.